So hello and welcome to the Dharma.life podcast. Today I'm excited to have a very dear friend of mine with me on the podcast, Christine Eilvig. Welcome.
Thank you.
One of the many reasons I wanted to get Christine on is I completely love who she is, what she stands for, her wisdom, but I also wanted her to share with you guys currently the tools and how oils can support your ascension journey. As you guys know, we are ascending from 3D consciousness into 5D consciousness, and there's lots of shift and changes happening on the planet, and I know that Christine has got a lot of value and wisdom that she can add to this conversation. So Christine, welcome.
Thank you.
So do you mind, obviously you've been on the podcast before, but if someone hasn't, seen your work, do you mind just sharing a little bit about who you are and what you're doing in the world currently?
So I don't know who I am at this point, to be honest, but I have
a lot going on.
I'm a spiritual teacher. I've been studying spirituality for such a long time, and my approach is very practical. I like for things to not be, in my head and on my vision board and whatever. I want it to show up in my bank account and in my relationship and on my body and all of that stuff. So my gig has always been the practical kind of knowledge we can gain from spirituality.
Wow, that's lovely.
I have like a very traditional platform with online membership site and an education and lots of online products. And I love that whole journey. I learned so much about myself and life and humans in general. And then at some point I felt, I don't want to say complete, but that was the feeling that I had. I know we're never complete, but everything in me just felt complete. And I didn't know how to move away from what I had created, because it was like a business, a very solid business. I was making millions and my husband didn't work and we had 3 kids and it was so solid. And here I was, I felt like, okay, that's done. I want to do, make space for the newness. And I sat there for maybe 2 or 3 years. I call it the moment between no longer and not yet. And it's a terrible place. I've noticed that people fear this place more than dying itself, because it's just, you don't know what to do. And at some point you have to understand there's no point in getting on the horse if you don't have direction. So you need to kind of get off the horse and just sit there and wait for instructions. And I did that. And I did it in a very feminine way. I think I digressed a little bit over. So I did more and more online stuff. So I didn't have to go out a lot because I'm so authentic that people would easily pick up, she's not really into this anymore. And I didn't want to interact with humans so much. So I focused on online membership sites and stuff like that. And it worked out well. I had lots of time and space to just figure out, my next step. And then I noticed it was the whole self-help journey that I felt like I had completed somehow. So because I didn't flip out and, because it wasn't exciting for me anymore. I had stepped out of my own dramas, So, and, we need to learn. So I didn't find funny anymore or enlightening, or I didn't find passion in helping people with all of these processes. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to do books, maybe in English, and then withdraw myself even more from my audience. And that was kind of my big plan at the time. And I prayed, I said to the universe, please give me a new puzzle. I'm more than happy to help, but please provide me me with something that I'm happy to do, something that will light me up and everyone else, because I can't talk about how old are you now and what happened in your childhood, and those conversations were kind of like completed for me, and therefore not interesting anymore. So I was invited to a meeting. It was a network marketing meetup. And because I'm so business savvy, I had many thoughts and feelings around network marketing. I basically, at that time, that was a year ago, I thought, that's for losers, people who do not believe in themselves, people who are like hustling friends and family, and people who are like trying to make ends meet, and they just pick up some kind of product. That was my view on that. So I showed up to this event in Copenhagen, and Elena Brouwer, she was there from Manhattan, and she's this creative soul, and I could feel her abundance, and I could feel her lightness around business. Pretty much that's what I felt in her. And we had like a sharing round, and she said, why are you here? And for some reason, I have this Tourette. I kind of always have to put out the truth, even though it's not appropriate, kind of annoying. So I said in that circle, honestly, I think network marketing is for losers, but I kind of love the oils, so I'm here to feel into them. And she didn't get offended. She didn't try to explain. She was just like, with that laugh. And I felt seen and recognized, but I also understood, she's got it. She's right. She's getting something that I'm not getting. I want to understand why she's not approaching me and selling, and why is she so confident in this whole oil business. So that was a great day, and 2 days later I signed up, and then I, studied everything about the oils, but also everything about the business. I fell in love with network marketing as a concept. It's like money. Many of us fear money, and many of us are like, oh, money is the root of all evil, and some of us know it's the love of money, greed. That's the root of all
evil. You can do a lot of good when the more money you've got, the more good you can do.
Yeah, and it's the same with network marketing, and especially in Denmark. It's like, oh, that's evil, that's the root of all evil, and it's for losers and scammers and all of that. So I like those subjects, where lots of people feel that something's wrong, and they have hang-ups, and they think it's a scam. And when I feel it's clean and it's pure and it's honest, I love to show people that. I did that with my first book in Denmark. Around money, I showed women, there's nothing evil about money. And I did it with spirituality, and now I'm doing it with the oils and network marketing, saying this is a great business model. So that's brought me back into passion. And I love the oils, I love what they can do, but I also love that weird way of making money.
So can you just tell me from when you because it's a really brave journey that you've taken to go from having a very successful business, doing something incredible, helping and serving people. What was the time frame between you kind of losing that passion, like you could feel it, to you then discovering the next chapter? Just to give people an idea.
It took 3 years. So it begins with that nudge inside, and you're like, oh, please don't, no, we're not going there, that kind of thing. And then you ignore it, and then it comes up again. And every time you're quiet, or you're just having like a few minutes to yourself, it comes up and up and up. And the first thing for me was, the certification that you're doing, that's gonna have to close. So I did 1 year where I created a version of it in a different format. And that was good. And it took me, it brought me further along, and I learned a lot with that. And then the year after, I went completely online.
Right.
So I kind of just figured out how much do I need to make, and what how could I serve, and how could it be a win-win and a good deal for everybody? So I took care of the basics. You know, a lot of people, they're like, they go broke, or they're like very not responsible around their finances. And I'm already, you know, I'm always very responsible, and I take care of everything. And since I'm the only one at this point making money in my household,
sure, you have to.
I needed to do that.
The thing that really interests me, though, because this is very linked to Dharma, and actually what they say in the Dharmic text, is that resistance that you were starting to feel is obviously the guiding force, which is your soul saying it's time to shift. And obviously what most people do is they ignore that resistance, because you said, because it's scary, because, oh my goodness, what am I going to do next? But what I love is you described, you kind of honoured it and shifted gently into where you're supposed to be going. And now you're truly doing something that you're in love with again, aren't you?
Yes. And I think so many people don't understand that they think we find our zone of genius, as Gay would call it, Gay Hendricks, or the Dharma. But what they don't know is once they find it, the format of how you're using it will change. I mean, you can be a doctor, and then at some point you can be teaching, you know, students, and then another point you'll be doing a book. It's still in that Dharma path, but the format is so different.
Well, it shifts and changes as we shift and change and grow. But like you said, that's why people think that the passion, the purpose is like a flash of insight, whereas actually, as you said, it's a journey. It's our spiritual journey, isn't it? Yeah.
And I felt, you know, my zone of genius is becoming my zone of excellence. Like I felt that drop where that's where people are most successful, and you've created so much in the physical, you know, portraying that success. And it's so difficult to move away from, because you have to end things, you have to close down, you have to say no to a lot of stuff, and you have to do it before you're like shown the next big great idea.
Otherwise it doesn't come in, does it? Like,
I know. So once you make a leap, you know, it looks easy, it looks effortless. People like, oh, that makes sense that she would just pivot into this oil thing. And I'm like, what? That was not easy.
Well, I can vouch for you, because obviously Christine and I have been friends for a long time, and I was with you when you were going through that transition, and it was such a brave move because I was like, do you know what you're going to do? And you were like, no, I haven't got a clue. And I was like, that's really brave, you know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But worth it, isn't it? Because life is short, and we don't want to do things that we're not 100% connected to.
I would just not recommend staying stuck. I mean, we all know that that's like a very painful, slow death, and you know, it's not fun, it's not nurturing, and it's not the point, basically.
Absolutely.
The puzzle is done. When the puzzle is done, you move on, pretty much, you know.
So oils are your new puzzle, and I love this whole new title, that there's an oil for everything. There's an oil for that. And you are Denmark's, or soon to be the world's, oil baroness. You think I'm joking?
Well, no one knows with me, that's true. Yeah.
But do you mind sharing? Because I'll be honest, right? When I first discovered, I thought, oil, really? What's this about? And it's like a whole new world to just play in and experience. So I'd love for you just to kind of describe to our listeners, you know, what is it that made you fall in love with the oils, and why are they such a powerful companion on our ascension journey?
So I studied Bach's flower remedies. I studied Findhorn in Scotland. So I've always had stuff in my bag, you know, spraying something, ingesting something, doing something, smelling, whatever. So that wasn't new to me. But the thing about vibration, which is where I come from with my spiritual teaching, it's all about raising your vibration, raising your frequency, letting go of baggage, going from light, and we do that clearing out our darkness pretty much. So it's like the oils and even everything in nature will work as a tuning fork. So it's all about alignment, and all about clearing out everything that you don't need. And because I love speed and I love to be light, I'm a minimalistic freak and I'm a Virgo. I love clutter clearing and cleansing and all of that. I love the feeling and the knowing that oils will just keep our cells whole, and it will create that homeostasis. And when we experience that wholeness with light, then, you know, we'll create that from the outside, and that's just easy, pure fun. I don't see why you wouldn't be interested in that shortcut, basically.
So essentially, oils are high vibration, and they can obviously support us from a health perspective, but also from an emotional perspective.
Yes. So most people, this is how I view it anyway, they're into oils for the physical aspect. So I have a headache, do we have an oil for that? Yes, we do. I have a cold, do we have something for that? Yes, you can try this or that. So that's great. You can kind of like create this at-home pharmacy that's based on nature's, you know, amazing power. So that's a great journey. Then at some point where you're like, every time I have a headache, I use this oil, and then the oil will begin speaking to your mind too. And then it'll be like, every time I have a headache, it's because I'm meeting up with this friend, or it's because I have this dinner with my family, or it's because I'm at my work and I don't like that. So the brain will begin, the consciousness will begin to rise around, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I should stop that. Maybe I shouldn't do this. So that's where we're like connecting the dots. So we're connecting thoughts, creating emotions, ending up creating physical results. And we're kind of tricked into the whole energy behind it. And the oil will take care of that. And then we don't have to experience it on all these levels. So oils work on the mind, on the body, and even in the energetic aspect of the soul. So it's such a powerful thing to go through. And that's why when we use an oil, we can begin to cry. We can begin to go into dark, deep places in ourselves. And it can be like a very a wild journey for us. And then after a while, we don't have the headache anymore, or we don't experience the eczema or whatever it is. That was just the energetic, like, leftover from something we created with our minds. So I love that whole conversation.
So I'm just thinking, for somebody listening, they're new to oils, like, talk me through how they would use oils to support their healing journey and then their spiritual ascension.
So in the beginning, if you're not aware of all these components, you can go with something physical. Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to get rid of headaches? Or do I want to, you know, create a smoother digestion or whatever? And you would go for those oils. And the oils that you choose will create magic on the physical, but then they will have like an emotional component. So then after a while, you'll begin, you know, noticing that. And then you'll be like, oh, okay, when I'm angry, instead of creating this, you know, fight with my husband, I'll just use an oil for anger. Or when I become incredibly sad and I eat 10 bags of whatever, you know, I'll just use an oil for sadness, and maybe I'll go for a walk instead of punishing myself with food. So it's like, it's a journey that's teaching us to go back to what needs do I have, and what could I do to provide, you know, nurture for that need. And so many of us grew up ignoring our needs and ignoring our feelings, and kind of like, oh, we're not going into any of it. And even spiritual people, that's what I see lately, they're so afraid of the darkness. They're all about the light and the meditation and the crystals and the oil, but if we're going deeper and looking down, you know, what do I really feel, and all those spaces, like where a good body therapist will just take you right there, you know, and oil can do the same. And once you feel an emotion, really feel it, it'll take 8 seconds max, and then it's out because you felt it. So you can end that cycle of being depressed for years, or a cycle of being just very sad, because at the end of the day, you're feeling like you're not worthy, or you don't have any worthy things to provide for the world or whatever. So the oils will go into the brain and create this, switch. And then you're like, oh, okay, maybe I don't need to think of it that way. Maybe I could do this or that, and then the journey begins,
So kind of practical application could be, what, depending on where you're at in your journey, say you're working on something physical, you would work out what physically, like you said, acne, weight, whatever it is, then choose the corresponding oil, because each oil, and then you'd wear the oil and just kind of, and then how do you know? So you would wear it until what point? When would you know that it's obviously?
So we have 3 ways we use the oils. We can rub them on our skin, like, this would be like a roller, like a small deodorant with coconut oil, and you just rub it on. And then we can also drink an oil, just ingest it, and we can put them in a veggie cap if we don't like the taste. And then thirdly, we can use a diffuser. This would be a diffuser. So you put water in this and then plug it in, and then oils, and then you will inhale the oils. So it's very intuitive for me. I always go by what feels right. So people are asking me, how did you know that you were supposed to do this? The truth is my stomach told me, so we can't do much about that. But otherwise, you'll just have to try, I'm experiencing this with my skin. I'm trying this oil. Did it fix it? Yes, no. If it didn't, then I'll have to do something else, And sometimes people will say, oh, I tried that oil for like weight loss and it didn't work. And I'm like, what did you do? And they're like, oh, I did the oil for sugar cravings and it didn't work, and I'm still carrying overweight. And I say, what's the feeling under that? Feel into that. And then they're discovering, maybe I'm angry. I'm like, yes, I'm really angry. So I'm eating because I don't want to feel that anger. So they begin using the oil for anger. And then at some point, the brain will be like, maybe you should do boxing. And they sign up for that. Or maybe you should run or do some kind of exercise. In that process, the anger will be released and the weight will begin to drop off. So it's like being your own detective, pretty much. And it's also finding your way back to your authentic authority. We can't have the book for everyone, like, oh, weight loss, that's on page 9. Here you go, you're sorted. That's not how humans work. We're way more complicated than that. So we have to, we need to discover ourselves. What's creating it? What's it about? Can I try one oil? Did it work? Oh, I need to do more. And, so it's like a, so
it's all going back to the classic onion analogy. It's almost like you work with an oil to take a layer off. We say, for example, weight loss, maybe you're like, I have, which one is it? Grapefruit, which is supposed to be good for that. So maybe you'd work with that for a bit and then see what it brings up. And then maybe it's, like you said, sadness or anger. And then you would kind of go off in the different direction depending on how you're feeling.
Yeah. And then what I found is if people have a lot of resistance, they'll tend to they'll be drawn to the wrong oil, if that makes sense. So they'll be doing like this oil, that oil, and they'll be like, oh, it doesn't work. And then they'll be all impatient. And I'm like, okay, let's calm down. Let's try.
Have you met me? Oh, you have.
Then I'll be like, what's the feeling? And then I'll help them with that. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. I see. This is what's going on. And maybe it's like I have an issue with my mom. Okay, we have an oil for mom. They do that. And then they're like, oh, okay. So we're used to thinking very logical, like if I have a problem with my finances, that problem should be solved in that area. But often it's mommy hang-ups, or it's
caused by something completely different.
Worthy, or my liver needs a detox. And then when we go do that, then the problem will kind of take care of itself. And I love the oils for that, because they don't have any words. They're just like so cute and so helpful. And and they're just doing their job. And if you don't need an oil, it's just going to feel like cute and nice, but it didn't have really an effect on you. But once you do need an oil and you choose the right oil, it's like a life savior. It's like it's magic. Like these few weeks, I've experienced stress for the first time in a very long time. So we have a new oil called Adaptive, and that's perfect for stress, and it's perfect for when you're in an environment that's changing like so much. And I haven't been for 3 years because I've been on that journey of, do I go left, do I go right? So I've been sitting a lot without stress pretty much. And then enter this stressful change with so much growth, that adaptive oil is just what I need. And it's the same with food. Sometimes we need a lot of protein. Other times we are eating like very light. That's also something around, what do I need at this point in time? There's not gonna, this is how you're going to eat, because it's not going to fit everybody.
Okay, so it's kind of honing in on what's happening for you. And I love that you said about being a detective. So kind of working with the oil, see what it brings up. It like takes a layer off. It might be something else that you need, a different oil that you then need to work with next. But it's a process almost that you're going through.
Yes, and you have to be like not looking for a certain way. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to just explore, and not so many people are willing to do that. We're all like, tell me what to do and I'll do it, and here the oils are. You have to figure out for yourself, do the research, try it out, have the journey, because it's so fun.
I was just looking to see if I could find the Evita oil, because I've been working with the oils, and I was saying to Christine, I like to work. That's who I am. I'm kind of like, go, go, go. And then I get frustrated. Right? Yeah. So Evita was one of the ones that you recommended for me. And when I first undid it, I was like, it stinks. Like, why does it? I don't like it. Can you explain? That's my resistance to it, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah. So Evita is the oil for unconditional help. That's like the coolest two words put together. So many women have been brought up to not being helped and understanding that we need to help ourselves. That no one's going to help us, so we just need to do that by ourselves. If someone helps us or wants something from us, we know that there is an exchange. So if we get something, we need to give something. And Evita is like, you'll get the help, and no. You don't have to do anything in return. So that's a very cool oil. And then if you think an oil stinks, it's always because that resistance that you're experiencing, it's because you're resisting what the oil can do for you. So you haven't hang out with that area. So it makes total sense. And it's really not the smell that's triggering. It's because once you smell it, your brain will feel it, and you'll go straight to that room inside of you where you don't want to go, and that's your resistance. That's what's making you almost vomit or be repulsed or whatever.
It's the trapped emotion.
You don't want to deal with them. You're like, yeah. And then when you've dealt with it, the oil will begin to smell like, I feel like saying roses, but it'll smell.
Yeah, I've noticed that it's not as pungent. It's still pretty pungent, but it's not as pungent. So it shows it's quite a good way of telling how long you need to work with it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and I have my own oil, Geranium. That's the oil of trust. And I have trust issues. I'm a control freak, this strict Virgo. I don't like to be out of control. So Geranium is teaching me, to just be loose and trust. And at this time, it's a cool oil to learn from. And it's beginning to smell better and better day by day. And you're like home and you've done the work when you can put an oil in the diffuser and just love it, So the first oil I didn't love was the On God oil.
It's quite strong.
blend for boundaries. And I had so many boundary issues and addiction and co-addiction around, all kinds of drama. So I put it in the diffuser, and I had to turn it off and throw it out because it was so all over the place. And I was like, okay, I get it. They also put it in the soap in doTERRA, and they put it in the toothpaste. And I couldn't use it brushing my teeth. I would get, all kinds of mouth sores and splinters, and, my mouth would be just in fire.
Wow.
So I had to use it every third day and then work my way up to every other day. And now I can do it twice like a normal person, but it was quite the journey. And now I get it. My system loves it. And my boundaries are so much firmer. And when I put it in the diffuser, I'm like, wow, we should have this every time. We should have On Guard and everything, And in the beginning, I felt like, why do they put it in everything? They even put it in the wash detergent. And I felt like, why are we doing this? But it makes so much sense because boundaries are so important for us to have, and all these things that can make us ill and whatever, that's a boundary issue too.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about ascension, because it's like a very topical word at the moment, going from 3D to 5D. How can the oils support that journey? Any particular oils you could mention, or?
So 5D, we're not going to get to 5D if we have all these hang-ups inside and even outside. We have to clean ourselves, and we have to be light everywhere. So we have to use oils in the beginning that will take the darkness we have inside and put it out in the light in order to be transformed, and then in order to just move away. So that's everyone's responsibility this time, to kind of move away from the shadows. And light does not have shadow. So if you have a candle, you light it, there's not going to be a shadow with the light, but you can see just the candle. It's very cool, that picture. So 5D, we don't have shadows. So the shadow will end by then, and there's not going to be all these dualities. We're not going to have all the things we're struggling with now, and we're able to understand, I can have my opinion, you can have your opinion, we don't have to agree, but we can coexist and even like it. Yeah, collaborate and all kinds of things, even though we don't completely love each other. In 3D right now, we're like, oh, if she doesn't think everything that I think, then I can't, do anything with her. And that's not very 5D to do that. So the oils that are perfect for ascension would be in the beginning, like our lifelong vitality. That's just for clearing out your cells pretty much, and bringing up your energy and taking care of the physical pretty much.
And that's like a vitamin you take, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a supplement. So you do that. We have the oil of transformation. That will be the DDR prime, DNA damage repair. So Ascension also about, repairing our DNA pretty much. Most of us just operate with the 2 strands, and we have 12. So activating our DNA as we speak. A lot of kids are born with 3 and 4 strands, so they are like more advanced than we are. And at some point, apparently, we're supposed to operate from all 12. So that's good to repair your DNA. And then the Copaiba is one of my favorites, this one from Brazil. That's like a shadow oil. It will take everything dark and bring it up for you to see, for you to transform and transmute, and then, release. So
do you just work with that on your body?
Yeah, I do 2 drops on my hand and I lick it. You can also create a veggie cap. In the beginning, it's very different taste. It's like licking a sauna pretty much, but I love that. Now I love the taste. I love the oil, and I have such respect. They become your friend pretty much.
So why would you lick it rather than just wear it?
Because I want to ingest it. I want it inside of me. I want it, to go in and then go wherever it's needed. But you could diffuse it, and you could rub. I personally, I don't love smell of Copaiba. I don't like that smell. But inside is great, and you can also do the veggie caps, so you don't taste the Copaiba oil.
So the Copaiba is like again, like we're seeing the collective shadow being purged, aren't we? At the moment, that's exactly what's happening. So Copaiba is almost like the corresponding oil for us to then purge our own shadow.
It's the perfect oil for everything shadowy, everything dark, everything that's not gonna fit and not gonna bring us into 5D. It's like everything heavy will keep us in 5D. The more we let go of, like an air balloon, all the bags of sand, the more we cut them off, the higher we can go up. And that's the ascension process we're in right now.
So really, all we need to do is use the oil and then just feel the feelings as they come out.
Yes, and then use the oils for those feelings. So
Right.
Is it anger? Is it sadness? Am I lacking, joy? Am I depressed? Am I feeling empty? Do I feel like I'm impatient? There's an oil for every emotion. And at some point you'll find your favorite ones, and those will change too because you change. And then I just did, last week I had cardamom and lime in my diffuser, and cardamom is for anger. The kind of anger where you're in touch with the fact that everyone else is being annoying. So, I know you know. So everywhere you go, you'll attract these really annoying people or these really annoying things, And I combine that with lime. That's like the oil of joy and zest of life. And after
offset it.
It took me a week, and I felt like, well, no one's anchoring me anymore. No one's annoying. I felt so much more space, and so that's like perfect. And all I did was put cardamom and the lime in my diffuser, work away, have fun, see some videos, and then stuff would come out, and I would have a conversation with my husband. We would agree to try and do something else, or blah, blah, blah. And then, no one seemed to be annoying me after that point. And then there's the other anger where you're like, oh, it's like, and it's eating you up inside, and it's you, but you can't really get rid of it. And that's the forgive oil we use for that. And then it's not that you don't feel the anger, you feel it deeply, and then you can kind of heal it, feel it to heal it, they say.
And this is all the stuff that we've repressed, basically.
Yes. Yeah.
This is all the stuff we need to let go of to ascend.
Then this came out in April, the Precious Florals. It's like the cutest set with like 5 very feminine oils. And the star of the show, because it's a new oil, that's the Blue Lotus. And that's an amazing oil. And I use it directly on my third eye. It will clear out all the veils that you've put there, even from, I believe, former lifetimes. But the energy will begin to work, and we'll begin to see more and more clearly. So we got this in April, and as soon as I put it on, it was like, wow, okay.
There's been a lot coming to the surface since April.
I'm like, did you say that? And then, okay, wow. And I research stuff. And so it's like it's clearing out everything in our pineal gland. That's like the star of the show also during these times. So it's so easy to put it on and then just, have help. And this, not this oil, it's not sourced from Egypt, but the Egyptians used it, and they considered these things, pure gold. And still to this day, there's like a limit for how much oil you can take out, because it is like a very appreciated resource.
I think it's they actually understand how to use it, don't they, rather than...
Yes. And we also have oils for every chakra. You can do that. And even, if you're like completely screwed, you can't feel anything, just pick one oil, begin there. See, where does it take you? what's it bringing up for you? What's it creating? And if it's creating, flow and everything that you're after, continue it. And then when that stops, you'll need to try out a new oil. And at some point you'll be just, on your way to just feeling so much more spacious and lighter, because the darkness is kind of out of your system, and your cells are functioning again, and so much more easier to be you, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's kind of forcing you into the now, isn't it, as well? Because when you work with the oils, you need to be very present to sort of see what's occurring in you and what's coming up for you to work with and look at.
And a funny thing happened on my team. So many of the women, they were like, I almost can't smell the blue lotus. And in the beginning, they were a little bit, I don't know if they were shameful, but they were like, is something wrong with me? I can't smell it. And, some were like, oh, you can't smell it. It's like the most beautiful scent. And I think it's because so many of us have
blocks.
Yeah. So we're blocked, so we can't smell it. But the oil will work anyway. Never mind how much we smell it. And then after a while, it'll begin to be, even we'll be able to smell it even more.
Amazing. And it's just, I have to say, it's fun. Like, I'm learning more and more and more. I have to be honest, I didn't quite get it to start with, but once you get into it, it's just really fun. And I think it, like you said, it forces you into the present. It forces you into the now. It's like, what am I feeling now? What is happening? I've noticed a lot of emotions coming up for me. Like, I've really noticed, where's this come from? And it's like old stuff, and I'm like old memories and old stuff. I'm like, well, I haven't thought about that for 40 years,
Yeah, it's stuff we felt like we had dealt with, right? It's like an energetic leftover. We in our minds, we thought, oh, I've dealt with that for a long time ago. And now it's like, oh, it's still there. There's still something there. And then it comes up, and then you can just release it.
Beautiful. Oh, well, I could... Anything else you kind of want to add? I could talk to you all day about this.
Yes. What do I want to add?
You realise there's like a selection. So you've got about... Where do you store your oils? This was my question, because you've got so many of them.
This is from my nightstand. I don't know if you can see it. So it's
just by your bed.
I love all these. I'm creating a drawer with oils, so I can just be very practical and pick oils out without them getting dusty and all of that. That's the Virgo in me again. I think the point where I knew that this was like really big is when my kids, I have 2 teenagers and a 9-year-old. And when my teenagers came back and they were like, the one you gave me yesterday when I felt very pissed at her, can we do that again? And I thought, okay, they're asking for it. And then they came back. And then they began stealing my oils. That's when I knew, okay, I'm like, where is this? And they were like, oh, buy another one because I'm keeping this one, And even my youngest, she's very much into this, and she'll be like a little nurse in her classroom, and every time someone's sad, she'll be like, use this oil and don't show it to the teacher, but you put it here. They'll go to the bathroom and she'll fix them. And now they're asking, can we do more of that? Because now I'm sad because my parents got a divorce. And she's like, oh, okay, we can do more. And my oldest daughter, she was away at school, and now they're, in lockdown, so they can't see each other. And they're like texting her saying, do you know how much I miss your oils? I'm going crazy. I'm feeling depressed now. I have my period. And where are you with all your help? And so that's when I knew this is like amazing. This is not spiritual, fluffy kind of placebo kind of a thing. This is like teenagers are into this.
Yeah, and I think it's just that, I think, isn't it, about they become part of your life and your lifestyle. And so it's like, I think there's a danger, isn't there? You buy an oil, you don't use it, you don't really work with it, but actually if you start to work with them, it just becomes like a companion and a friend, like, oh, how am I feeling? I don't like that feeling. Okay, how can I support myself?
Yes, yeah, totally. Yeah, and even my husband uses them all the time. He has his own manly kind of approach to it, but
well,
we not run out of this, and can we keep more of this, and do we have, and
Really? Wow. Yeah, I have to say Matt is very into, I made him some meditation blends, and they're really supporting his meditation, so much so that he's asking me to make the blends for his friends. Yeah, I have to say I've found that with my meditation as well. Actually, I've noticed the difference in my meditation when I put the oil on and I really center myself, connect to my guides, and then meditate to not wearing it. I've actually got up after about 5 minutes and gone and got it because I noticed the connection difference. So
yeah, amazing. And it's
oils.
So hands-on. The process you have to deal with, that's not quite easy, but it's way better than staying stuck and having it. And I love the whole feminine kind of a vibe and the nature thing. I mean, nature's got it. It's so genius, and why not just borrow that wisdom instead of everything else that's like breaking us down.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I could talk to you about this all day. But if you're listening and you've got any questions, then please reach out to us. If you've got any questions about the oils, if you're interested in joining us on this oil journey, I have to say it's been amazing, and I'm just noticing the benefits day by day by day. So please do get in touch. But Christine, where can people find you?
My website is just ChristineEilvig.dk, and in American it's .com. And I'm on Instagram and all of that stuff. So Facebook and Google, and you'll find stuff. Yeah, and you can make the link. Yeah,
absolutely, and we'll have all the details in the show notes. But thank you so much for joining us. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and we will have another amazing guest on the Dharma Life podcast next week. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Dharma Life podcast. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Please come over and say hello on my Instagram, our Facebook group, and also please let me know what you thought. So if you are listening, please take a screenshot of the podcast that you are listening to. Tag me on Instagram and I will reshare your post, and please let me know what it is that you got out of today's episode. Remember, when we do our Dharma, we are happier, healthier, we live longer, and we have a deep sense of unshakable inner peace.